Growing up in, poverty, sometimes it could be a little toxic. Everyone's kind of like in survival mode. So things happen. Relationships get broken, and I'm telling people, hey, I'm gonna start a business, and people are laughing at me. It's like, wow, like this is how people actually act. And I feel like I was only 19 at that point, but I can vividly remember when you are ready to take the next step. Sometimes it can be chaotic, but that doesn't mean that you have to submit yourself into that forever. You just experience that, and it could either consume you forever or you could grow from it. And I feel like I've pretty much grown from that.
Okay, so before we get into the episode, I have something that I'm so excited to share with you guys. For the last few weeks, I've been working on this t-shirt. I've been putting my blood, sweat, and tears into this t-shirt you see me wearing right now. A story about me is that when I was in university, I tried to start 2 clothing brands. They were both spectacular failures, but the desire to do it and to build a brand and a movement still holds. And so I'm bringing it back now. So we are gonna release a very limited print run on the first drop. So if you want to be the first to know about it, go to the link in the description, sign up to our launch list, and you will get exclusive access to purchase these t-shirts before they sell out. I was watching one of the videos on your YouTube channel, and there was something that you said that I thought was interesting. You said, people think that I have had it all together my entire life, not knowing that I had to struggle, living in a 2-bedroom flat with 8 people to now building a 7-figure clothing business, buying my dream apartment, driving my dream car. And so here's where I want to begin. Because obviously we're going to talk about how you built the clothing business, starting with only a few $100s. But I wanted to start right in the beginning. Living in a 2-bedroom apartment with 8 people. And so if I wanted to understand what your life looked like at that moment, like almost like what a day in the life of Kayla at that time was, like what would I have seen?
I mean, honestly, you would just see like a girl waking up. I actually used to sleep on the couch. Like we had 2 couches, and I slept on like the smaller one because I was like smaller, of course, than my mother. She's taller than me, and we just wake up, get ready for school, have to run to the bus stop with my older sister, get there, go to school, and I get to school, and everyone's like, "Hey, Kayla!" Like you show up, nobody really knows what's going on, but you just show up and be your best self. And after that, after school, you have to go to basketball practice, get that in, and then come back home, study for tests tomorrow, or, study for whatever's going on, and repeat every single day. So it was like a schedule, but still like gotta wake up. It's just like a little bit of like a situation that you're in, but you don't really realize that you're in it. So like you actually understand like what's happening in your life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, a 2-bedroom apartment with 8 people. But when you speak about it, I can like see you even smile a bit. It feels like you remember it fondly.
I do actually, like vividly. It's like, wow, like I actually used to like live there, and it doesn't really feel like, I don't really remember it like completely, but I just remember like the key points of that. Coming home after practice, studying for tests, like waking up in the morning, have to like catch, the bus to go to school. And it's just like, wow, like I can't believe we actually experienced that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's crazy how life can change. I'm curious, what were your aspirations back then? Like, did you imagine all of this? 7-figure clothing brand, cars, apartment?
Honestly, I really didn't. Like I did, but I didn't really see like where I am now. I always just kind of had like the future of like, okay, go to college and finish college and hopefully get a good job to save up money for myself, and hopefully invest into real estate one day and get my dream car. Little by little.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we had a phone call before this, and you were telling me your experience at Foot Locker, Kids Foot Locker. And you said to me you had to leave your role at Foot Locker after 2 months. I'm curious what was happening in that 2-month period that you were like, I need to get out of this.
I feel like for me, like I'm a really big introvert. So like working at like a job like that, you have to really be like, hey, how are you? Like, how is your day going? You have to be very vocal. And like I wasn't the best starting out, but I had a manager, and he would tell me like, hey, like you're not being loud enough. And I'm just like, damn, like I'm kind of sensitive. Like that kind of made me like want to cry in the moment. I'm like, geez, like I don't really like that feeling of people telling me like what to do. Like this kind of sucks. I'm only making like $7.25 an hour. But it just kind of made me feel like, dang, like, wow, like I don't like when people tell me what to do. And then I'm just like, I I don't think I want to work here anymore. It's just a lot of micromanaging, and I don't think that I can perform my best under that kind of environment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's relatable because I think there's a lot of people that are doing a job and they know it's not like the long-term thing for them.
Yeah.
And they hate that feeling. I think everyone's had that at work, hating that feeling of like getting told what to do and
Yeah.
feeling like you don't have another option.
Hmm.
Do you remember the moment where you were like, mentally for you, internally, you were like, okay, I need to go. Like it's over.
Yeah, I remember that moment. And that actually came from my second job that I had. At working at Kids Foot Locker, I'm like, you know what? Like, I don't want to work here anymore. I want to quit. And I quit. But then I actually had a second job that I got to experience. I'm like, okay, like this just isn't it for me. And I'm like, wow, I can't do this anymore.
Mhm.
I'm going to do what I want to do.
What prompted it? What made you think like, I've just had enough of it?
I just feel like in the workplace, sometimes certain personalities don't really like mesh with certain workplaces. And my personality, I'm more of like an introvert. So I feel like the kind of work that I was doing, and like you have like a lot of coworkers that you have to like talk to and like get along with. I don't really care to talk to my coworkers that much. So
Mm,
they kind of felt like I was probably just like, oh, maybe she's like weird, like she's not doing her job. But I was doing my job. I just didn't really feel like talking to everybody.
mm,
And not everybody, understands the way that you communicate or how you are because they don't really know you like that. So that kind of became an issue, I feel like. And I was going through a lot at the time. So if I check my phone, my coworker's like, oh, like she's on her phone. Let me take a picture of her. And it's like, they don't know me like that. So they would just feel like they have to go and just tell, like, our supervisors, hey, she's on her phone. And that resulted in me, like, getting in like a little bit of trouble. Of course, I was stressed out. I had to go check my phone. I was stressed out most of the day. And that just resulted in me, like, wow, like, I guess I have to quit my job.
yeah.
Yeah.
I think I relate with it because I kind of go between, I have introverted and extroverted moments, but I would
Right.
say I lean more on the introverted side of things.
Yeah.
And I think, especially socially, like when you're around other people,
Yeah.
there's a lot of situations where you feel kind of misunderstood or like
Yeah.
people mistake you being like quiet or observing as like you don't want to be around them or like you
Yeah.
have an attitude
Oh my
or
gosh.
any of those sort of things.
Yeah, that's so true.
Yeah.
Experienced that a lot, honestly.
Is there a situation that comes to mind where you're like, especially in that early period and working in those situations where you felt like someone just misunderstood your intention, like who you were as a person?
Yes, I feel like I'm misunderstood and like almost like a lot of times in my life, like at school, I'm not like the biggest talker. I do my work if I have to, but I just didn't really talk that much. And most people would probably think like, oh, she's weird. She's probably like quiet, or she's like a nerd or whatever. In high school, we're like younger, we categorize people by how they act.
Mm,
A lot of people often are categorized as, oh, they're the class clown, they're cool, they're funny. And the person that's kind of like just more of the observer is more like oh, they're probably weird.
yeah.
What are they plotting? They don't really understand you that much. When they have a conversation with you, they're like, oh my gosh, like I had no idea that you were that cool, or you were just that kind of person.
Yeah. Was that like I think you're exactly correct. But was that unsettling for you? Like was it unsettling for people to feel like people felt that way? Or you were just always kind of cool with it, you just embraced it?
I mean, when I was younger, I felt like it could be unsettling because you kind of want to be accepted when, sometimes in your life. And as you get older, you just realize like, I got older, I'm like, I don't really care to be accepted. Like, this is who I am. Like, people that will mesh with me. And whoever doesn't, just doesn't. They won't fall into, my life. And that's just what it is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a confidence to that
Yeah.
perspective. I'm curious, we even have your like family in the room. Like early in your life, like who would you say were kind of your influences? Like who made you the person that you are?
I would say that's a tough one. I don't know. Like, I feel like all of them kind of like played a role. Um, but I would say the person that made me who I am was probably, I would give it to my mom the most, because I could easily just like watch her and see like, wow, like she does a lot for us. And it's like thinking about it, it's just like it can make me emotional at times. It's like, wow, like she did her everything for us. And
Mm,
it's like, wow, I have to make something of myself.
yeah.
Some people have that reality check and some people just don't.
Yeah.
And I had that reality check.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's interesting. I grew up first 11 years of my life. I grew up with a single mom. Uh She would work and she would take care of my older brother and me. She would come home, she would cook food, and you were like, there would be certain nights, even as a kid, I'd be like, how does she do all of this?
Yeah, I don't
Like she's
know.
like superwoman. Like I feel like moms are like that.
It's crazy.
Are there any kind of like vivid memories in your mind of just like seeing what your mom did early on?
Yeah, I feel like, sometimes when we're younger and you grow up with like a single mother, sometimes we might not understand our mom in the moment. Like, why did she come home from work and she's not like the most happiest? But she has to come home from work to feed like, three hungry kids. In that moment, we don't understand it. But as we get older, it's like, I remember she wasn't probably getting the most support. She probably wasn't in the best mood at the moment. You have to come home, pay bills, worry about how your kids are going to get fed, and you're struggling. It could be a lot. And I feel like that kind of made me understand people better as I realized and look back, okay, she has to work hard, feed us, take care of us, make sure that our hygiene's up there, everything's up there. And you just kind of, it helps me understand people more
Yeah.
in any situation that they're in.
Yeah. You know what? You even alluded to it earlier, the kind of like, especially when you had that second job, the like stress that was happening outside of work.
Yeah.
Um, when we spoke on the phone a week ago, you mentioned that when you left your second job, it was probably the most stressful period of your life. I saw like another interview that you did, and you said, I was working a job, and in that moment of my life, I was going through a lot of bad stuff, a lot of drama, a lot of bad friends. I was getting my heart broken. I was just going through a lot of bad things.
Yeah.
Can you can you mention that? Because I think there's someone that's watching now that's like, I don't know, sometimes we have to turn up to work and we can't be our real selves. Like, we have to act like nothing's happening in our life.
That's true.
Um, and so if someone at that time had like they just observed you outside of Kids Foot Locker or that second job you had, like what would they have seen? Like what would have been some of the difficult moments?
I feel like before you experience something like super great, you experience a lot of like chaos in your life. Before you fully commit yourself to like your purpose and what you want to do, you experience a lot of chaos. And that's what I was experiencing, whether it was friends, heartbreak through friendships, family. I mean, people don't really understand this, but growing up in poverty, sometimes it could be a little toxic. Things happen. People, everyone's not really operating from a form of love and peace. Everyone's kind of like in survival mode, so things happen. Relationships get broken, and friendships, a lot of things were going on with myself, and it was just like, it was a lot. And I feel like that kind of like built me up, because I realized in that moment I was facing a lot of like emotional like trauma, things happening, losing my friends. I'm telling people, hey, I'm gonna start a business, and people are laughing at me. It's like, wow, like this is how people actually act.
Mm.
And I feel like I was only 19 at that point, but I could vividly remember, the type of things that I experienced. And it kind of just helped me remember, like, okay, when you are ready to take the next step, sometimes it can be chaotic, but that doesn't mean that you have to, submit yourself into that forever. You just experience that, and it could either consume you forever or you could grow from it.
Mm.
And I feel like I pretty much grown from that.
Yeah. You know what? I've had certain periods of my life where like I don't even know the analogy to give. It almost feels like you're just repeatedly getting like kicked in the teeth, like
Yeah.
punched in the face. It's like one bad thing after another, and it's
Hmm.
just like stacking up. It feels like you're underwater, to be honest. And even in that experience, when I reflect on those moments, there tends to be like one thing that just kind of like pushed it over the edge. Like it just felt a bit more impactful or negative at the time
Hmm.
than everything else. And so I'm interested, like when you reflect on that period of your life, was there an experience that like you just remember it vividly, that felt like out of all the negative things that you spoke about, bad friends, heartbreak, whatever, like family things, whatever it was there one thing that almost it like tipped it off? It felt more significant than everything else.
I feel like it was the moment where it's like, when you grow up in like a family that isn't like the most successful or financially well off. It was a time where it's like I was living in fear, and I realized it just caught on to me, because whenever I would have to drive my mother's car, I would always be driving in fear, because I know if I crash her car or I damage it, we couldn't replace it. It's like you have to constantly be like, like on point. Otherwise, it's like, damn, like I can't replace that. And it was one time, I actually was driving my sister's car, and it was like a little fender bender. But when I got home, I'm like, she started crying. I'm like, I realized I'm like, geez, like this is serious. Like people, like if you don't have money to like fix things, or you don't have like the resources right away, that could be like your tipping point. Like
Mm,
in today's world, if somebody hits my car while it's parked, I'd be like, okay, I'll get another car. But if that was like my last option, like that was my last car, I would probably feel like my life is completely like falling apart. So that made me
mm,
realize you have to be in a better position, so when things happen, it kind of just gets handled a little bit easier. Like I could
mm,
handle stress easier now. I could handle things a lot more easier, because in that moment you just feel like that's all you have. And if something happens, it can be the littlest thing, it often will take over your whole day, your whole aura, your whole spirit, because it's like, damn, like this is all I have, and that's
mm.
all you could rely on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I think that's so true. And I think it's like it's I think one of the worst feelings in life is feeling like you don't have another option.
Yeah.
And I think that's the panic that comes with it. It's like you kind of know there's not a bunch of other options of what you can do to resolve that situation.
Hmm.
And so it feels like 20 times more real
Hmm.
in that moment. Um, you know what? I'm kind of curious, like, how did the how did you start to think about starting a business? Like at what point does that come on your radar, even the possibility of starting a clothing brand?
I feel like it really just, it kind of came from like after like that little period of my life. It was actually during that period of my life where everything was kind of going chaotic. I kind of found like an interest in just like learning things. And I'm like so curious about how people get rich. Like, how do people get rich? How do people make money? And at first I seen one of my friends like designing on Instagram, and I'm like, okay, that's cool. I feel like, I'm good at art. Like I have a couple of talents, and I feel like I was good at art. So I see my friend designing on his computer. I'm like, okay, I seen an Instagram story of my friend designing on his computer. I feel like I can do that too. And then I tried it. And I'm like, okay, this is, at first I gave up. And then like a month later, I picked up my computer. I'm like, this is a pretty expensive computer that my dad got me for graduation. I might as well make something of it.
Hmm.
And that's where my interest began into like clothing and designing.
Yeah. You know what? It's funny. I remember hearing this Alex Hormozy quote, and he goes, you can literally achieve anything. Like, say that you wanted a $2 million business. The only thing that's holding you back from that reality, it's one of two things. It's either belief or skills. So either like your beliefs aren't in the place where you can build a $2 million business, or it's that you just don't have the skills yet.
Yeah.
And he actually says that most of the time people think they're missing the skills. It's actually the belief part that's missing. And so I'm curious, at that point in your life, what is creating the belief? Because if we just look at what was happening at that point, it's like you had the Foot Locker job,
Yeah.
which didn't go the best.
Yeah.
And then you had the second job,
Yeah.
which also didn't go the best. So like, what was giving you a certain level of drive or belief that you could do that?
I just feel like it comes from, seeing things. I feel like vision is everything. And, when you're like in a box, you don't really see much. And I remember it was like, I think one Christmas, my uncle, he got engaged to his wife, and her family is, pretty well off. And we went to their Christmas party, and I seen like their houses. I'm like, wow, like these are some beautiful houses. Like this is how people actually live in real life. And that made me realize this is real life, and this is actually achievable. So I'm just like very grateful that like, our families mesh, because it's like, wow, like people, I got to see how people actually live in
Mm,
like in life. And I'm like, wow, like this is a huge house. It's beautiful. I want to live like this one day. It's
mm.
definitely real. I'm here right now. I could experience it.
Yeah.
So it made me feel like I can live that as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, that's sick, and it's true as well. You know what's funny? When we spoke on the phone, you told me about an experience. I think you said you were 17 or 18 years old, and you were sitting in your grandma's house,
Yeah.
and it kind of gave you, just you can say it better than I can. Like, just explain that moment.
I feel like at 17, I feel like most people might have like a reality check a little bit later in life, but I feel like at 17, I just realized, okay, we're living here. I have, an option to just say F it. Like, let me just do life however it takes me, or I could actually realize and take things. Like, the way that I think is I kind of look into the future. Like, if I take this route or this route, however you say it. This is how my life can go.
Yeah.
But I realized in that time of my life, I realized at 17 years old, all I saw for myself was just like, college and saving up money while you're in college and getting a good job after college. That's what I saw for myself. So, and I saw like a positive future. It might not have been like the 7-figure business future, but I still saw, okay, if I don't follow something or I don't cling to something, a hobby or something that can get me to like a next level, I'm probably going to have to live this way for the rest of my life. And it clicked to me, I have to do something about my situation.
Mm.
I have to take myself serious.
Mm.
And that's what happened. Yeah.
What was it about being in your grandma's house that like spurred that moment? Okay, quick break. If you're going to start an online business, you need the right website domain. Introducing our friends at Pork Bun, who are sponsoring today's episode, and they're going to help you get a custom domain for just $1.64. So let me tell you this. When I was looking for my website domain, I did some research to make sure I got the best deal, and I found Pork Bun. I started by searching for the standard .com and .net domain names, but then I saw calum.bio was available and it had a special deal on it. I bought the domain for just $1.64, and the reason that I bought it is that I wanted people to be able to find all of my work in one place. And the good part is not many people have .bio domains yet. A lot of the best names are still available. So now I own calum.bio. It looks professional and it's easy for people to remember. So stay tuned. I'll be sharing my new website soon. But the great news is that I've also hooked you up with the same deal that I got on my domain. So if you want to get your .bio name while it's still available, just go to the link in the description and use code GETYOURBIO to get your .bio domain for just $1.64. Thanks again to Pork Bun for sponsoring this episode, and back to the show.
Just, I said, I think a couple minutes ago, I was mentioning how like living in poverty, everyone's kind of just like everyone's like in survival mode. It's crazy. When you're living in like lack, it's like you don't have enough money to go buy something. It's just like it's like an energy. When you're living in lack, you often operate a certain way. You're always in survival mode. You're always defensive. You're always, angry. Like wake up in the morning, I got to go to Dunkin' Donuts. Okay, when my kids are hungry, I got to go feed my kids. But you want a donut and hash browns. It's like, damn, like no, you only can get hash browns today. You automatically just get irritation from like the situations that are coming your way at the start of your day. Then you got to go to work. What if your kid made you upset before work? You're not the most free to just be like, okay, it just happened. You're just automatically just in like this bubble of emotions, negative emotions. You don't know how to get out of that. And it's just like a cycle that's easy to just be a part of when you just continuously make your mind or you just live in that kind of lifestyle. If you don't learn how to break out of that, it's like tough. You're always going to be irritated, living in survival mode. When you go out to eat, you're afraid of the bill. You look at the prices, you're like really, hyper fixated on everything in life that could affect your finances. And it kind of makes your, experience of life a little bit hindered in a way that you're just like, you're not really living how you want to live.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's a good way to put it. You're not really living. How did it even, because I've heard you say on some of your videos that you were in like a 2-parent household, or like even when you were growing up, you would go to your friends' houses and they would have like nice homes and stuff like that. So I'm like, how did you even end up in the situation where you were at your grandma's house?
Yeah. So my parents were like married for a couple of years and then they got a divorce. Things happen. I don't know if that 2008 crash was that serious, but it seemed like pretty serious. My parents got a divorce, and after that, my dad he decided to move to the Caribbean, and he had a vision for himself. But my mom figured, she'd rather just stay here in Florida and raise us in the area of Pembroke Pines. It's probably the best decision. It might not be affordable, but instead of having to move us to like a different area, it probably would benefit us to still go to the same schools that we were attending and just keep us there. It would probably cost her more and probably affect her bills and her income, but she just really wanted us to grow up in a nice area of living.
Mm-hmm. Okay, that makes sense. And then I guess your grandma's house was like the...
Yeah, my grandma's house was just like, it was like the root, and she still lives there today. So it's like, yeah, it's like the root of the family.
Yeah. Okay. So you you start designing, and then you get to the point. Well, actually, you know what? You explain it. How do you get to the point of like there's actually a business there? Like there's like what are the initial stages of that clothing company?
It pretty much came down to just like talking to people because like I said, my friend was designing on his computer. I'm like, hey, like, how did you do that? He tells me the app he used. I'm like, okay, cool. Now I have to figure out how to design these things. And I'm like, okay, so you have a website. Where did your website come from? He said, okay, Shopify. I'm like, okay, Shopify. And I had to figure out how to make my own name, how to build my own website. And this all came from like trial and error, just trying things, failing, trying and failing over and over and over again. And then I figured out a name which kind of matches my initials. And I just put everything together. I'm like, okay, design, website, Instagram, pretty simple. But it seems simple, but then, of course, marketing and other things came a part of that.
Yeah. You know what's interesting? I think when we hear these stories of like entrepreneurs, especially ones that like quit their job and then built, like in your case, like a seven figure, like a multi-million dollar business,
Hmm.
it feels like the story was like they quit their job and then straight out of the gate, it was like a runaway success. Like things just blew up. It just happened for them. It all came together. I feel like your story is a bit different. And you even told me when we spoke, you were like, we made $3,000 that first year. And so
Yeah.
when you talk about there was a lot of trial and error, there was a lot of things that failed in the beginning. Like walk people through those moments because that's the reality. That's the real of starting a business. Like what were some of those early failures?
A lot of early failures was like at times where I first started my business. And when you first start a company, everyone's like, yeah, I'm going to support you. I'm going to support what you got going on. And you get like a couple of sales from like friends and family. But then you realize, the next time you drop, your friends and families they have lives too. They have things to buy and pay for. They're not going to buy every single drop. And that's when it kind of like clicked to me. It was like some months where I made $0, a month where I made $60. And I'm like, wow, like, it's looking a little scary. I got a little nervous, but those trial and errors really come from just like doing everything on your own. And back then, when I started, there wasn't many like educators or people doing the clothing brand stuff. I feel like today you could find multiple clothing brands online, right? Which is amazing to me because it shows how much, the e-commerce industry has grown, how much fashion has grown online with young people, whatever. But back then it wasn't a lot of people that I could just be like, hey, how do I do this? Or how do I fix that? It was just me, myself, and just figuring it out.
Hmm. You know, I think I just find it so I think it's really relatable for the person that's like going through it
Yeah.
because you think that like man, no one that made it had months where they had no sales or
Yeah.
they made one sale.
Yeah.
And so like what was your I'm curious like what was even the reality of your life at that point? Like you were still living at your grandma's house? Like what was even the feeling at that time?
Um, things changed, of course. We actually got out of grandma's house, thank God. Uh, it was more peaceful, a lot more peaceful, different environment where I could actually start a business and actually kind of focus on that. But even if I was living at grandma's house, I probably would be a little bit more stressed, but I feel like I'd still be able to manage that because you just need to have a tunnel vision on what you want to do. Now, in that moment, things were coming through, clothing was coming through. It was just like the part of like figuring out how to scale this business that really like hurt me a lot. And there was months where I made no sales, months where I got one sale, and months where I got zero sales. And I'm like, how am I gonna ever get past this? But I was lacking a lot of resources, and that's like one of the biggest things that kind of held me out.
Mm. Okay, so I'm curious, and even what I said in the beginning about like skills and belief, and I know you even mentioned it when we spoke. You said like skills will make you rich. Like that's what it is. Like a lot of the times, that's what people are missing, like the skills. When you reflect on the Kayla back then, like what were some of the things that you were doing wrong? Like what were some of the things that you were just missing that was leading to one sale a month or zero sales in a month?
I feel like for me, I was missing the resource of like a great manufacturer, of course, because when you have a business, you have to have someone that kind of like makes your products and can distribute your products how you want it to be distributed, can distribute your products in a certain amount of time that you need it to be distributed, to you. And that was one thing that I was really lacking. I had a manufacturer that my friend gave me at the time, but He's like, hey, I know you're starting a business. I'm like, how do you find a manufacturer? He's like, you can have mine, but you can have one of mine, not all of mine, but you have one. And I'm like, dang, like this one sucks. They're not helping me out. Like I'm struggling here. I can't even make what I want to make. And then later on, a couple of months later, his partner actually said, hey, like I appreciate you for I don't know if I helped him out with the design or something, I don't remember, but he said, yeah, I appreciate you. Here's the vendor that we actually utilize that it can be more useful. And once I got that resource, that completely flipped my whole world. I'm like, wow, like resources are so important, because if I never got that vendor, I probably don't know where I would be today. The
Mm.
resource is so important, and that really changed my whole like motion of the business.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Why was the manufacturer so important? Like, if I like, what flipped after that moment?
I feel like when you're limited to certain things, or if you have a manufacturer that could only make flip-flops, but you want to make sneakers, it's like, how could I ever make my sneaker dream come true if this manufacturer can only make flip-flops?
Mm.
And if they do make sneakers, they could try, but it's not going to be the high quality that you need.
Mm.
And when it comes to starting a business, it's like you don't want to just do half step anything with your business. You want to be able to fulfill what you want to do. You want to be able to create what you want to create and bring your, imagination to real life. You want to produce good quality, something that you would want to wear or something that you would want to buy yourself. And I
Yeah.
don't think it's fair to produce things that are not things that you would buy yourself.
Yeah. It's actually it's a really important point. I think sometimes when you look at people that are successful in something, you
Mhm.
just see them, but you don't see necessarily the partners that they had,
Mhm.
employees, mentors. Like it takes a village to build something that's successful. Um, it's funny when we talk about like struggle moments or like painful moments in the beginning of a business,
Yeah.
I really resonate with it because so I left my job to do the podcast 18 months ago. And at the same time, I went from living in Manhattan to living in New Jersey, where my mum is.
Mhm.
And like I remember when I initially moved back home, I told my mum, I was like, 2, 3 months, I'm gonna be out of here. Like I'm gonna be back in New York. Like I just need to get back on my feet.
Oh wow.
I'm like, if you give me 3 months,
Oh wow.
it's all gonna come together.
Mhm.
It took like a year, basically.
Wow.
And I remember there were certain points. I had certain moments. It was when it was getting around like month 6, month 7, month 8, where like hopelessness was like starting to
Oh
set
yeah.
in, where like I just couldn't see the way out. Like I was working so hard and I was making improvements. Like the show was getting better, but the metrics were not budging. Like I was not seeing a ton more viewers. I think every entrepreneur's had that. Maybe it's you're getting better as an entrepreneur, but your sales aren't taking off. Um,
That's true.
I'm kind of curious for you. Like I remember it vividly what it was for me. Like certain moments where I was like, I don't know if I'm gonna do this again tomorrow. Like
Mhm.
I feel like quitting this shit. Like maybe I made a mistake. Um, is there a specific moment that comes to mind for you in that first year where you were like, you contemplated quitting or going in a completely different direction?
Yeah. I mean, tons of moments where it's like, okay, we started in February, we got a couple of sales, and now we're starting in March. March slowed down, and then now it's like April, and it's like, okay, scratch his head nervously. We only got like one sale, and then May comes, it's my birthday. Uh, slows down even more, and it comes to a point where it's like, damn, we got no sales. So it's like, dang, like in my mind, it's like, do I quit? But at the same time, I'm like, I can't quit. Like everyone laughed at me for this like a couple of months ago, but in my mind, I feel like I can't quit. That's so stupid. I cannot do that. Like I have to keep trying. I didn't even exercise all my options yet. Why am I gonna quit? Like that's just like, it's not in me to quit. If I quit, it's probably like a Mario Party game that I couldn't complete. Like that's something that doesn't matter. But like in life, I take myself very serious. So why would I quit on something that I had a vision of before?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You think if you had quit, would it have felt almost like you were quitting on yourself?
Yes. And I just feel like for me, it's like if I quit, I just feel like I'm not being myself. I'm not known to quit. Like I used to play sports. So it's like I have like that spirit of just like I have to win. I have to win somehow, even if it doesn't make me $1 million tomorrow. A win is a win. If I get a sale tomorrow, that's still a win to me. And it'll work out how it's supposed to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm curious what was the first breakthrough? and even for me, it's funny because we obviously met through Tez, and
Yeah.
Tez was the first breakthrough for this show. That
Hmm.
was the at the time we were getting like 100 views every episode. His episode's gotten over 800,000. Like
Wow. That's
that
amazing.
was the first moment where I was like, finally, like something.
Finally, yeah, I
Yeah.
felt the same way.
What was your
I felt the same way.
what was your first breakthrough?
It was, I would say, December 2019. I made like these tracksuits that were like holographic, and I put them on Twitter. And yeah, it went like a little viral, not like so viral, but it got like maybe like 5,000 likes, 10,000 likes. I don't remember exactly how much. But I only ordered like 12 pieces and it sold out. And I'm like, wow, like I made $2,000. Like I'm so grateful. I'm so happy. Like this is my moment. Like I'm about to be like a winner. Like I'm gonna win. And I'm just like so happy about that.
Yeah.
I was so grateful for that moment.
Yeah. No, I love to hear that.
Yeah.
What was it about that? Because even when I think back to the Tez episode, there's certain things when I watch it back, I'm like, okay, that's the reason why that one
Yeah.
did what all the other ones didn't do up until that point.
Mm-hmm.
Like when you look back on um, the video with the tracksuits, and maybe we'll even put it in the show so people can see it.
Yeah.
But like, what was it specifically about that video that made it go?
I just feel like in life, it's like on Instagram now, there's like certain trends that happen. So it's like we're already knowing when we go on Instagram, we're gonna see certain things. We already have like a, okay, this is what's probably gonna come up. If a certain meme is trending, like certain things trend online, we already kind of expect that to come up on our timeline. Now, for me, I realize when it comes to what I'm into, the fashion industry, I just feel like in that moment, I'm gonna create something and I'm gonna post something that people have not seen before. And that kind of like reaction on social media, I feel like things on social media, you can get people's attention by showing them things that they have not seen before. And when I made a product that people have not seen before, often I felt like, you know what, this is gonna be the one. It's gonna be the one.
How do you even? Because I think that's one of the most difficult things for people to do is kind of like come up with something that's truly unique. Because it's like, especially nowadays,
Mm-hmm.
we see so many designs. Like
Yeah.
we see so many people with fashion brands. We see so many images on Instagram from different brands and different styles.
Yeah.
So like, what was even the process of you coming up with a design and like a concept that was truly unique?
It really came down to me learning my skills. So I think earlier we talked about how skills can be really, beneficial to your journey. But I feel like for me, I learned the skill of designing. I put my computer down and said, I need to learn this. And I was able to learn that. And I'm able to create certain things for my own business. And that one skill was allowed me to make that one product that I felt like, okay, it's different, it's unique. People are gonna react to this when they see it. And I feel like attention is everything. If you can make somebody see something and feel like, wow, I have to double click or double tap and like the picture or comment, you're gonna win some way or another.
Mhm.
Yeah.
You know what's interesting? That reel, the one with like the luminous tracksuits, I heard you say this in a interview. You said it got 2 million views in 2 days. I made $20,000 in sales in the first 30 minutes and about 100,000 in 14 to 18 days.
Yeah. That was insane.
What's that like?
That
What's
was
happening mentally for you when like that's taken off in such a short amount of time?
Mentally, we were actually about to go to Disney for my little sister's birthday. And like while we're like packing for the trip, I'm like showing my sister, I'm like, oh my gosh, like look, oh my God, we got like 20,000 in sales. Like this is crazy. Like we finally made it. I'm just so happy to like show like, oh my gosh, I finally made $20,000. I never thought it was possible to make $20,000 in like a couple of minutes or a couple of hours. I was just so used to like, showing up somewhere, working hours to make a limited amount.
Mm.
When that happened, I just felt so grateful. Like, wow, like I just kept saying, oh my God, God, thank you. Like, thank you, God. Thank you, God. I'm just praying, like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. It's such a great feeling. And that's just what I felt.
Yeah. Up until that point, how much had you even made?
So that video that we're discussing is a video that came after my first tracksuit video that didn't really go that viral, but it got momentum. And I felt like when you get momentum on something in any business, you want to keep riding that momentum. If you let the momentum die out, it's like, dang, you kind of like let your wave die out. It's like artists in the rap game. Make a good song and make another one, or try to make another one and keep riding that momentum, that wave of yourself when you have attention on you. Otherwise, when it dies out, it's going to be like you have to come up with something even more crazier to get the attention back onto whatever you're trying to sell, build, or put attention on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what was even the time lapse? So you do the first one, it goes kind of like something's happening.
Something, yeah.
I feel like everyone who does any sort of content knows that, where like
Yeah.
maybe for what you're doing right now, you wouldn't consider it viral, but at the
Yeah.
time you were like, this is it. Like,
Yeah,
we
like
are big.
that's so true. Like now it's like the kind of results that I get now, it's like 5 years ago I'd be like jumping for joy, like, oh my gosh, like this is crazy. But now it's like a normal thing now.
Mm.
So it's like the timeline, like you said, 2019 got like a little viral video, and then I'm like, okay, let me keep making more products that would appeal to people's eyes to make them want to, interact with my posts and things like that. And then I'm like, okay, kept coming with ideas, kept building momentum, kept building an audience, kept building my pages, and then September 2020 is when I finally made that one video that was like, boom, like you're about to be like earning like 20,000 in a couple of minutes, and I'm like, okay, like this is cool, I like it here.
I like it here. I like that. Okay, so first year of you running the business, $3,000 in sales. Second year, and you let me know if I'm getting the numbers right. Second year, $500,000 in sales.
Yes, correct.
And then the best year that you've ever had, over $1.2 million in sales.
Yeah.
Is that like, I'm curious, like once it really started to work, and you know what? I want to give it for people, because I think there's people watching who maybe they've even started that clothing brand. They don't have a huge budget, or like they're kind of in the position that you were in.
Yeah.
Like they're leaving a job, or maybe they're even still working a job
Yeah.
that they really dislike. They have like a few $100 to put towards a clothing brand.
Yeah.
They kind of grew up a bit artistic or into fashion.
Yeah.
And I want to give them that blueprint that after listening to this, like there's something that they can apply and start to generate that momentum that you had back in 2019, back in 2020.
Mm-hmm.
So if we just start in the beginning, and even the way I almost feel like it's almost like advice for like the earlier version of Kayla.
Yeah.
The one that was trying everything and like there were no sales happening in a month.
Yeah.
So like if we just wanted to start with almost like the basics, like the foundation of someone starting a clothing brand, what is it that someone needs to start with? Like, what's the beginning? Like, what would you tell someone is step one?
I would just tell them step on like making that switch of this is what I want to do. Most people are, half stepping with what they want to do. But I feel like anybody that's watching this should just sit down and decide, what life do you want for yourself? Right. And just because you might be someone that draws or sells paintings doesn't mean that you can achieve the life that you want. You have to decide, what life do you want for yourself? And once you decide that, right, and you follow up with what needs to be done, for an example, with clothing, it all starts with deciding what you want for yourself. Do I want to be successful in, arts or fashion? If yes, let's get started. It doesn't take 10, 15 steps to get started. It literally takes you deciding, I want to get started. You need to create a name, Instagram, and things like that, which are pretty simple, yes. But it just starts with your mindset of just making that switch of, I want to get started, and just getting started.
I think it's so good. I people will ask me about like starting a podcast.
Yeah.
And I what I call it is like and I used to do this a lot. Like I actually tried to do a clothing brand when I was younger. Complete failure. And the reason why I call it I was like playing around with my food.
Yeah.
Sometimes like kids, like they're eating, they'll just be like pushing food like around the plate.
Yeah.
They're not like just getting into it.
Yeah.
I think that's what people do in business. Like they're kind of doing stuff.
Yeah.
They're researching.
Yeah.
Or they're talking to people. But it's like a various forms of procrastination from just doing the thing. So I think what you say there is valuable. You mentioned coming up with a name. Yeah. I know even for me, like I'm working on a clothing brand right now, and like the name is like the most frustrating thing. I'm like, what should the name be? Yeah. How do you usually advise people of like how to think about the name?
I would probably get with people, like get with friends. Like that's what I did. I got with friends at first and we just started brainstorming names. And that could help you. It's like if your friend comes to you for like dating advice, right? You know exactly what to tell them until it's you in that position. So if you're about to have a child, you're like, what should I name my baby? You don't really know. But if you ask a stranger, like, oh, what would you name your son? They'd be like, Tyler, Cameron, a bunch of
Mhm.
names. So it's like when you kind of brainstorm with people, right? It kind of helps makes your like situation a little bit easier. So everybody has the answers a little bit faster until it's like them. Like if I am going through something, I'm like, hey, should I do this or that? Like I have like the response to ask somebody something, but until it's like somebody saying, hey, Kayla, do you have any advice on what to do with this? I already know, like, you should do this and that. But when it's myself, it's like, I can't even think. It's hard to think. So I feel like brainstorming with like trusted sources of people in your life that you actually like get along with or have the same kind of mindset about in certain things of life, you guys can probably brainstorm to come up with like names or whatever to help you out.
You know, actually, I think this is an interesting way to take it. If someone came to you, like say they're close friends with you, and obviously they know that you've built a successful clothing brand,
Yeah.
and they came to you with a name, what are the traits of a good name? Like, what would make you hear something and you'd be like, okay, you've got something. Like, that's a good name to move forward with.
I feel like a name that's like more so like wait, what? What's the brand called again? Like
Mm.
I don't know, like Area 59. I'm like what's the brand? I never heard of that name, but Area 59, like that's like something like unique. I don't even know if that's a brand name. I'm just making something up.
Mm.
But like
Someone gonna start that right now.
yeah, Area 59. I
Area
don't know, like
59.
Area 51, Area 50, Area 27. Like little things like that is just like what? Like what brand? Let me see it. Okay, cool. It starts to become like a household name and little things around the world. And like you're and your friends like, have you heard of that brand? Area 59. Oh my gosh, like I seen this rapper in or I seen this person in or this influencer. It's kind of blowing up. Like I feel like the names that, are just not so common. Like people kind of get caught up in taking names from like rapper songs sometimes and like make it a name. But sometimes these little, slang or, lingo that we use become extinct, later on in life. So it's important to just make a name that just is unique to you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know what you're getting at? It's like it piques curiosity. Like it's a bit odd in a way. And because it's odd, it like stands out.
Yeah.
Like your brain clicks into it, like
Yeah.
it double clicks on it. Okay, let's take it further. So someone has a few $100. Let's say that they've come up with the perfect name. They've come up with a great name. What are the other things? And the reason why I even give the caveat of they only have a few $100 is like they don't have money to waste. Like they're not gonna, I don't know. There's so many ways that people procrastinate and like end up wasting money in the beginning of a business.
Yeah.
What are like the things that it's almost like the lean method to building a clothing company in the beginning? Like you have to have this. I guess the name is obviously an obvious one, but what are some of the other things?
I would say just like a design. Design is the most important part. Like having a unique design, and that's like you have to have your own design. Like you just have to have that. Most people want to start a business and just put like their name on like a t-shirt quickly and like say, okay, I'm gonna charge like $200 for this. And it's like, you can't rush into things. You have to be a little bit more unique with what you're trying to bring out. Yeah.
What makes great design? Like when you see a brand, even maybe something that's not even your own brand, like what makes you look at it and be like, that's a great design?
Anything that I see and that makes me feel like I need to have it. And it's usually products that I feel like I could see myself styling many different ways, like having like a versatile product. So I feel like items that are like jackets or pants, right? I feel like those items are the ones that are just like, okay, if I see somebody style it, let's say I see some like a fashion influencer that I look up to and they style it, I could probably be like, wow, like they put that together really nicely. I might want that for my birthday outfit or a New York Fashion Week outfit or, hanging out with my friends outfit. Like you have to be able to create like something where people could see themselves wearing it probably, or just be like, wow, I have to have it.
I feel like that's such a good point. Like people can see themselves wearing it.
Yeah.
That probably goes a lot into the marketing that I'm thinking,
Yeah,
right?
for sure.
What have you found are the keys to creating that effect? Because that's like an art. That's like a skill. Like people pay like millions of dollars to like consultants to figure that out, right? Like someone can
Yeah.
see themselves, like visualize themselves in the clothing.
Yeah. I feel like that is important in today's world because now I feel like marketing is more around people that can see themselves in other person's shoes more often. So for me, it's like if I'm gonna make like a marketing video, I want to create an outfit that most people would probably see themselves wearing more so, or my targeted audience wearing. And
Mm,
that comes with like the kind of videos that I'm making or producing. I'm not gonna really be super professional all the time and have like the highest quality. I want people to feel like, this is a really cool brand. It was create this reel was created in her room or something, or like I could see myself in my own closet putting on the same jacket and the same pants, and that makes them feel more like okay, I could see myself shopping with this brand and doing the same thing.
mm.
It's kind of even like I don't know, like psychological at this point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's almost what came to mind when you said that, it doesn't even need to be super high production value.
Yeah.
Because I think a lot of the times people think like, okay, I need to get like a full shoot. I need like several
Yeah.
photographers and all of this and videographers.
Yeah.
If anything, for what you're saying, the more authentic it looks and actually makes it easier for people to visualize themselves in the clothing.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, I'm curious, like even when you speak with people that are starting brands, do you have a recommendation of like what product they should start with? I can see that being something people procrastinate about. Like, do I do t-shirt? Is it tracksuit? Is it jacket? Is it like what is the easiest thing just to get started with?
I feel like the easiest thing to get started with could everyone would probably say t-shirts, but if you're gonna make a t-shirt, I feel like in today's world, if I'm gonna buy a t-shirt from you, I want to see how you're gonna style it. So I feel like it kind of comes with making pairs of things. So if I'm gonna make like a jacket, I feel like I could easily get some like jeans from like another store and just pair it up with the jacket to like kind of make an outfit to make someone want to buy it. But then at the same time, if I'm making just a t-shirt, it would be smart if I make a t-shirt with some pants to go together to make someone else's life easier.
Mm,
Like, oh, this t-shirt looks nice, but what am I gonna pair it with? Okay, here's some pants that I made too that you can just pair it with together, and you knock out two birds with one stone.
mm,
Buy my t-shirt and the pants, there you go, you have an outfit.
mhm.
Makes your life easier.
So you'd almost recommend that someone have like some sort of set. Like it's not just like one product.
Yeah.
It's like there's actually like
Hmm.
it's a jacket and a t-shirt, or it's t-shirt and
And some
pants.
pants,
Yeah.
yeah, like
Okay.
that. If it's a t-shirt though, that's how I feel for t-shirts. Always probably provide a complimentary item for the t-shirt.
Yeah.
If it makes people's life easier to see themselves in your t-shirt, and they would probably feel more comfortable purchasing your product when they can see themselves, oh, one, two, three
Hmm.
together.
In terms of getting the design right, because I think there'll be a lot of people that will listen and they don't necessarily have your background in like they took the time to learn design.
Hmm.
And so are there even certain websites, like specific websites or places that you would advise people to look in terms of like how do I find a great designer and then create great design?
So I feel like designers could be found on like Instagram mostly, but it could be hard to depict if this person's like a real person is actually gonna design my stuff, because there's a lot of like people like scamming out there, of course. But I usually provide people with designers that find my page. But for me, I actually made a lot of friends in my journey, like through Instagram, where it's like, hey, I could design logos.
Mm,
I'm like, okay, let's work. And over time, their designing skills got better, and I learned how to design myself. So made my life a little bit easier. So for someone that's trying to find a designer, you could always just search graphic designer on Instagram, and it'll show you multiple pages that graphic design things.
mm. I
Yeah.
remember actually, because I'm kind of going through this process right now. It's just why this conversation is so timely. Um, I would go on Instagram and I would type .std, and that's like a way to get um, and I would search that and I would get like graphic designers. I'd go to accounts and you can just see like a whole pages and
What?
pages
That's
of different
cool.
designers. I actually got that from Tez. I think I watched one of his videos and he said that.
Wow.
Um, okay, cool. What do you think about the niche? I think that's something that like every business people kind of get bogged down in. They
Yeah.
start to procrastinate. Like, what's
Hmm.
the niche? Who's the customer? All of this stuff. Like, what do you usually advise people when it comes to deciding like what their niche is or what makes their product unique?
Um, I feel like it comes down to just like, what do you like? Like some people are like, I want to start a luxury brand. Okay, do that. That's what you like. You must know, from experience of shopping with other luxury brands, what makes you want to shop with a luxury brand, the experience, the lifestyle aspect of what they're promoting, etc. And for me, it's like deciding your niche comes down to who do you want to target. For me, like this outfit that I'm wearing is, the niche of like people that probably like streetwear. I kind of like streetwear sometimes. I love streetwear. Actually, let me not even say kind of. I love streetwear. It's so cool. You do so much things with it. So it's like I get into streetwear. I feel comfortable doing that myself. I feel comfortable picking pieces and putting pieces together to make something of nothing.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So let's say, I've got the name, I've got the design, I've got my website, can use like Shopify or whatever, to design the site and like the back end.
Yeah.
Like I'm at the point where I'm ready to launch. Now, I think there's one of the difficulties with doing a clothing business, you kind of need so many different skill sets, right? Like I'm sure there's certain people that are great at getting the product and the design,
Mm-hmm.
no idea about marketing or like how to
Mm-hmm.
get people to buy.
Yeah.
Can you kind of talk through how can someone have a successful launch where they're not just going to launch a product and it's like their cousin bought it, their brother bought
Yeah.
it, and then that's it?
That's true. I feel like people have to get more comfortable with putting themselves out there. I feel like on Instagram, it's one of those apps where people feel like embarrassed when they post things. And
Yeah.
it's like, I find myself sometimes posting on Instagram and I just swipe out the app because I'm like, oh, I don't want to see it. I don't want to see anything. I get out the app. But people have to be more comfortable with putting themselves in other people's faces. Like,
Mm.
you go on Instagram right now, you will see breaking news. This is happening, that's happening. The news people don't have any problem with putting stories in your face. The Shade Room has no problem with putting stories in your face. Random celebrities don't have any problem with putting their business in your face because they assume you're gonna feed off of it, right? Now, you yourself don't ever feel like you're doing or bothering people by putting your brand in people's face, because there's gonna be that one person that you don't even know that's in the world that's gonna want to purchase your brand. And that's like a fear that people have to overcome, is being comfortable with putting your brand out there.
Mm.
And there's many ways to do that, of course, through promotion, marketing, collaborations, etc. But you have to be comfortable with starting and just putting your brand out there, regardless if you have 1,000 followers or not. It doesn't matter. Be ready to do that.
Yeah. You know what's funny? I saw Alex Hormozy said this. He said most businesses, the reason why they're not getting what they want, they have a volume problem,
Yeah.
which basically means they haven't done whatever they need to do enough times. So
Yeah.
it's like the salesperson that never does cold outreach or they never reach out to anyone. And it's
Yeah.
a lot of the same time in business. Like people will post about the product one time
Oh yeah.
and then that's it.
Yeah.
I'm curious for you, and like I just think this will make it so real for people. Like when you do a launch, how many times roughly do you post about it? Is it on Instagram story? Like in total of everywhere from where it's across the internet, like how many times are you posting?
I feel like it's important to post. For me, like I will post at least maybe like 5 to 7 times before the launch, because I need to remind everybody, hey, like Kayla's dropping on Friday. So you guys got to be there on Friday. And
Mm.
if I post one time, they're going to probably forget by Friday. If I post 3 times, they'll probably remember. Someone might set an alarm. Some people might not. And then if I post 5 times the day before, 2 days before, they already know, okay, these jackets are coming out on Friday. It's important to continuously remind people.
Mm.
A lot of people today don't have, attention spans to remember I don't remember every single thing myself. So there's been times where I even missed releases of other businesses because they only post once. And I'm like, I wanted that shirt, but I missed it because you only posted once.
Mm.
And it's like, that's the importance of just continuously being active on social media. And sometimes the more you post, it could probably hinder your likes, but that's okay. You cannot be afraid of just posting. You have to just do it.
Mm. Can you kind of explain to people what even a good post looks like? Because I think especially with clothing, like I'm kind of going through it right now. Like if I had to post about my brand, I took a picture of the t-shirt on the table, or like what does even good posting look like?
I feel like good posting looks like something that just kind of creates like a feeling that you feel. And I feel like most of the time, like stills are part of like someone's emotions. And it's kind of like when people can see themselves or they feel related to your brand in some type of way, they just have to have it, or they just see it and they're like, oh my God, so far I have to have it. And a good post for me is like a picture post that it could highlight somebody wearing the product and styling it in a good way, or a video reel of just the product itself. Different clips that continuously keep your attention on the clips, and you just feel like, wow, like that's a good video. The music kind of reeled me in as well because you know you got to keep people's attention, and the product itself is just like, wow, like okay, that's nice. I might follow you, might not buy today, but if I follow you, that's still a win because one day you found interest to follow me, and one day you might find the interest to buy from me.
Mm.
Yeah.
You know what? I wanna show you. I wanna show you a video, and I wanna get your reaction to it, and we can go through it.
Okay.
So this is one of your ones.
Oh yeah, that was a crazy video. Wow. One of
You
my
know,
favorite videos actually.
so talk me through like what is even the like even as you're just planning that video, like you're starting
Yeah.
to put the pieces together in your mind. Like it's not created yet.
Hmm.
And actually, you know what? Just for context, was the video 2 million views in 2 days? Like
Oh yeah, that was the video
so
for
2 million
sure.
views in 2 days, $20,000 in sales in the first 30 minutes,
Yeah.
about 100,000 in 14 to 18 days
Yeah.
afterwards. So talk to me. Let's rewind all the way back. Like you haven't
Yeah.
even posted it yet. Like you're in
Yeah.
kind of the almost the concept phase of coming up with the idea.
Hmm.
And I'll share it to the audience. Like we'll edit it in. Um, talk me through like how are you even planning it? Like how are you even thinking about it?
Okay, so I mean, it all came down to I actually only made two colors of that product, right? And I feel like sometimes there could be like a disadvantage when you have too much colors. People kind of be like, "Oh, I don't know what color to pick, right? But I feel like in that moment, like I don't care what the disadvantage is. I want to get people's reactions. I want to get people's attention. When was the last time you seen somebody make a colorful video of like clothing, fashion at that? And you seen people like turn at the same time. It was just so like in motion that I just knew that the average person seeing that would feel like they would feel something towards it, whether it's like, wow, like that was a cool video. Like I don't even care if they want to purchase. I just know that it would be a cool video to see because we've never seen that before.
Mm,
Like maybe someone did it in like 1920 or 1950, I don't know, but like for me on my social media years, I've never seen that before.
mm,
And I actually picked a product that isn't really like the most popular at the time. It was like reflective product. When you put the flash, it like glows. Cool. Now let's mash it all into one. And let's get some people that can maybe short to, tallest.
mm.
And let's make a formation that's gonna, what would it remind people of? The Power Rangers. I don't know, like colorful things like Skittles.
Mm,
People were in the comments like, "Oh, like this is the Power Rangers. What am I watching?" I'm like, "Okay, cool. Keep commenting.
mm,
Negative or positive, it's still getting me views and it's still getting people like, "Wow, like that's so cool." The emotion they felt towards it is going to trigger a purchase in somebody somewhere.
mm.
Either way.
Yeah. You know what's funny? So a few weeks ago, we had an entrepreneur. His name is Sam Parr on the podcast. He teaches himself how to like write on the internet. He
Yeah.
builds a newsletter called The Hustle, sells it for over $27 million, and he's breaking down on the show. He's breaking down the like copywriting framework that he would use to write his newsletters, and he calls it AIDA,
Yeah.
which is attention, interest, desire, action. And so when you explain like even the different colors, and it's cool to hear like the level of depth and like where your mind was going in certain
Yeah.
places, but you started with attention. Like that was what you were trying to do. It was like, okay, first of all, just how do I get people's attention?
Yeah.
Like how when you're scrolling through, it's almost like the scroll stopper. Like I'm got your attention even for a few
Mhm.
seconds. Talk to me about like so I guess the colors and even the style of the clothing gets the attention. Where did the idea of like the formation and like even the way that the camera is rotating, like when did that come from?
I feel like sometimes you just have to have a crazy vision and you have to execute it. Like I just had a vision of people in multiple colors turning around. But I just knew that like if I recorded everyone standing still, it would be nice. But how can we create some type of movement in there? Like how can we create some type of like reaction somehow?
Mm,
And that's why I always create movement. Like there's so much times where we see models just like walking in a straight line or just standing still. Let's move. I feel like people need to move when it comes to marketing. Like we have to move. We have to show people like the product. Like you just gotta move.
Mm,
I feel like it just little things like that create a big difference.
mm,
100%.
mm. That's actually really important. I think especially in content, sometimes you're like, oh, that small detail, it's not gonna have any big effect on the end goal. Huge impact through like
Mm-hmm.
small detail changes in your content.
Mm-hmm.
Talk to me about the music. Drake song. What what
Oh,
what was that like?
the Drake song was like it was like the newest like Drake song at the time. I'm like, okay, I gotta pick a song. What song am I gonna pick? Something that's trending, and trending things keep people's attention all the time. Like whatever's trending in the media keeps people's attention. And I figured music is a big thing like that. Everyone listens to music. Not maybe everyone, but most people listen to music on the way to work, while they work out, while they're on a flight. Like earlier I was listening to music on my flight. It's a part of life. We Most of us need music to get through the day. It makes us feel better, it makes us get through things. And if I'm watching a video of a product and I hear music, and that might be my favorite song, and I'm gonna just be like, I'm gonna finish watching this video
Mm.
because of the song, and it just all plays a role into one.
So you would actually say it sounds then that the music, like the song selection, is like a key component of making a
Absolutely.
reel go.
Absolutely. 100%. Because it's like a lot of people can recall events in life. Like what's currently trending in the media right now?
Mm.
Rappers beefing maybe, or this artist is doing this, or that artist is doing that. And in that moment, some artists are making music. And on social media nowadays, social media is always changing. At one point, Facebook was like everything for most people, and MySpace was like everything for a lot of people at one point. And then here came Facebook, and then here came Instagram, and then here came Twitter. Like at one point, Twitter was my app, and I realized, okay, Twitter is great, but I realized Instagram is going to implement more factors that is going to pull more people to be more stable on like a platform like Instagram. And I was on Instagram seeing, okay, video content is trending. Let's continue to pursue that through Instagram and make our platform and make our mark on Instagram.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So this video comes out in 2020.
Yeah, 2020.
Um, you still have videos now in 2024 that are going viral
Yeah.
on your pages. I'm
Yeah.
curious, like, because I'm sure that there's someone like I can hear the cynicism. Like I'm sure that there's someone listening. They're like, oh yeah, that worked in 2020. Like, how do I do it in 2024? And so even as you're
Mm,
thinking about making videos today,
yeah.
and you speak about like the importance of trends, like what kind of goes into your content creation process when you're like even thinking about a concept for like a clothing video?
I feel like for me, it's like the factors of in today's world, a lot of us, we personally, me, I can't watch a Netflix movie by myself and not, reach for my phone. Like I have to just check my phone. So my attention span is a little bit shorter. A lot of people on today's world, we are scrolling through videos constantly on Instagram Reels, TikTok. We watch a 6-second video, make us laugh. Okay, what's next? And we're just so used to just swiping and swiping and swiping. I don't feel like in today's world, a 30-second video of one product is going to keep the attention of somebody. So I learned with the changes of life, right? I can go viral in 2020, but I can continue to go viral in 2024 if I adapt to the changes of fashion, marketing, attention grabbing things. And in today's world, I feel like when it comes to fashion or any kind of business, um, shorter videos will keep the attention of the average person than like a long video.
Mm.
A long video that will keep the attention of a person is a video that's telling a story, right? Now a short video for a business, just show me the product in under 10 seconds, and I make all my reels under 10 seconds. It's no longer than that.
Mm.
If I'm making a reel that's longer than 10 seconds, it's because I'm telling a story about myself. And that's how I market myself.
Yeah.
Stories, long, business, short.
Mm.
Yeah.
You know, I think that's something we had Rob Oliver on the podcast, and he spoke a lot about like culture. Like he'll take certain events or things that are like extremely popular just in like the general discourse,
Yeah.
and then he'll create videos or even sometimes create brands specifically around these events. And it reminded me when we spoke a week ago, you mentioned like even the Kendrick Lamar and Drake beef.
Yeah.
Like how I'm kind of curious, like you see something like that, which obviously a certain moment, everyone is talking about it.
Yeah.
How do you take that, which is like a music beef between the two biggest artists? How do you take that and utilize it for your clothing brand in terms of marketing?
It's like, there's so many ways to utilize it, and people don't realize, like, a business like Fashion Nova sends out like 5 texts or 5 emails a day, right? They don't let up. They're on you 24/7. Like, you're gonna see this sale. And same thing for businesses like myself, Kendrick Lamar and Trigger Beefing. What gets produced out of that? Music, right? And what people want to hear is the songs that they're creating. Now, if the current topic is Drake just made a new song and it's trending and it sounds good, okay, I'm gonna use that same song for my business because it's the current thing that's trending like right now.
Mm.
And that goes into any type of business. Use what's currently trending to talk about to stay relevant.
Yeah.
It's like an artist that's an old artist, like Drake has been in the game for years. When there's a new artist coming up, what do? Collab with them, make more music, and produce new things.
Mm.
Influencers, when there's a new influencer coming up, a new YouTuber, you collab, make more, entertainment or make more videos and produce new things. You keep yourself relevant, sorry. And then they also stay relevant themselves. It's like I don't know, it's like business.
It's interesting, the parallels, because
Yeah.
people say that about Drake, right? Like, he always attaches himself to the new sound. Like, oh, something in Atlanta's popping off, he's with the Atlanta artist. Something in Houston's going, he's with them. But it's the same
Yeah.
in business. Like, you can attach
Mhm.
if you can like tap into these trends, you remain relevant. And specifically in clothing, it's like being relevant, being cool, being on
Mhm.
like the cutting edge is like everything to a clothing
Yeah.
brand. Yeah, no, it's so
Super important. And it's like a lot of people watch Love Island now. And it's like in this moment of what's trending is Love Island. What would a business do? Go reach out to the most popular Love Island cast members and collaborate with them.
Mm.
And now you keep your business relevant and it also benefits your business as well.
Yeah.
Very important.
I saw this a few weeks ago. I'm sure you saw this as well. When that whole trend on TikTok about being like demure or whatever,
Oh yeah.
the amount of emails I saw from companies in my
Yeah.
inbox, it's like demure,
Same.
like everyone's doing this. I think as the consumer, you take it for granted.
Yeah.
But like that's how the game of business is being played.
Yeah.
Like, people are aware of
Absolutely.
viral trends or things that are going
Absolutely.
off, and then they attach it themselves to it.
Yeah.
Okay, here's where I want to go next. So you were able to generate like a pretty significant amount of income off one viral video. But I guess to a certain degree, I can see, even for the person that's listening, it's like, okay, so the way that I build like an actual brand that is consistently generating sales, is it just that I need to keep making viral content? Like, I guess another way of me putting it feels like you could get to, I don't know, $20,000, $30,000 a month just by having like a viral video around your content.
Mm-hmm.
When you had that year where you made like 1.2 million doing clothing, like, what are the other factors that are allowing, from like a sales marketing standpoint, like if I want to start to go from, I don't know, 5 figures a month to maybe like 6 figures a month, what is the change? Like, what is the difference that's allowing that to scale?
That comes with getting a team around you. It's like you're gonna need a team. You need a team. You need somebody to help you out. You need help. And for me, making 10,000 a month to make 6 figures a month came with me having a team, like Facebook ads running 24/7. So I'm not there having to figure out and post every single day of what's being new for my business. If I have a good product, you put some Facebook ads with that, and next thing you know, you could sleep, go to New York, come here, do a podcast, and sales are coming through because you have a system of people or you have a system that's working for you. So a team is very important when you want to get to that next level.
Yeah.
Doing it yourself, you're limited to scaling to a certain amount. You need a team.
Yeah. You remember what was the moment in your life when you had that realization? Because I'm sure there's a certain point where you're just riding off the high of like having these reels go viral and it's
Yeah.
like money's coming in. Like, when was the moment for you where you're like, oh no, to get to the next level,
Yeah.
I'm gonna need people around me?
It's like, for me, like, knowing my story and, like, knowing how I started, it's like, okay, I finally made that month where I made a $20,000 sales or I made a $100,000 sales. I don't want this to end. You get fearful. It's like, let's say you go your whole life without making $20,000 a month and you make your first $20,000 in, like, 20 minutes. You're like, "Wow, I don't want this to end. I want this to last forever." And you have to figure out, "How do I make this last forever? How am I gonna make this continue?" Rinse and repeat, but you have to add other factors. And for me, that came with adding a team. So in 2020, when I made that $100,000, it's like, wow, like, how can I do this again next month? I can't keep doing the same systems of myself. It's not going to work. You know, networking, meeting new people naturally just happened. And then I met my friend that ran Facebook ads. I'm like, okay, let's do this again. Let's make another 100K. And after we started working together, we made 100K the next month, and then the next month, and the next month. And it just comes down to a team. You need people to help you.
Yeah. Let's talk about that a bit more. I actually think what you mentioned is like I go through it now with my journey sometimes
Yeah.
where you're like you start looking at even like viral videos or things that you saw that did really well in the past. And it's weird. Maybe it's when you come from a background where you weren't used to like always having things, but
Yeah.
you start to have like this weird paranoia and fear of like,
Things ending,
yeah.
things stopping.
And it gives you like this anxiety because now the people that watch you and know you, they know you as being this person
Yeah.
of like, oh yeah, she's the one with the successful clothing company, or he is the successful podcast.
Yeah.
I remember for Michael B. Jordan, I heard an interview when he said this. He was on the Wire. I think he had done like a few series of The Wire, but he was
Yeah.
going broke. So he starts working at like Jack in the Box or something. Or like he's trying to get jobs at like fast food restaurants. And they
Yeah.
wouldn't hire him because they're like, wait, you're on The Wire. Like, why do you need a job at like a fast food restaurant?
Yeah.
And so because people have this perception of you, it's like more scary than if you were the person that just never achieved anything.
Exactly.
Can you talk about that moment? Like what was some of those, like you remember nights even or like evenings where like you just had like the fear of like, how am I going to be able to do this again?
I had those fears of like, how can I make this last? And I just figured it happens in business. Like, there's not going to be every single day where you make $100,000 a month, $100,000, every quarter. That doesn't happen. There's going to be lows and highs, but you have to learn how to adapt to those changes and learn how to adapt to making your business continue to run. And that comes with in any business. It's like, you know, in fashion a couple of years ago, people love skinny jeans and now everyone's wearing more baggy pants. Like, things change. A couple of years ago, people were, in 2005, when you look at old pictures of like your parents, like, oh, look at your dad with those bootcut jeans and that big t-shirt. Like, dudes that are really a size small was wearing like size larges just to have that big baggy look. And that was a trend back in like when I was like elementary school. Like, my whole family was wearing like bigger clothing. And then when I was in like middle school, high school, everyone's wearing like tighter clothing, like tight shirts, tight jeans, like everything. And then now, years later, right, there's changes in fashion where everyone's back to wearing like the jorts, long jean shorts, the John Cena pants. Now people wear crop t-shirts. Men and women wear boxed crop t-shirts. Things change. Now, if I'm a business that was, going viral in 2005 for wearing, boot baggy jeans, and then there's a season where it comes up where everyone's like not wearing that no more and everyone's wearing skinny jeans, I have to adapt to that. Otherwise, it might affect my business. So adaptation is just like, it's a part of the game for most businesses.
Yeah. That's what's going to keep you on top.
Yeah.
It's like, can you adapt to where it's going next?
Yeah.
I saw this tweet on your Twitter account. You said 6 months of consistent grind can put you 5 years ahead. Dream, believe, focus, and hustle. I'm curious for you, like, even when you made, I don't know what the inflection moment was, like the first million, maybe it was getting the dream apartment or like the dream car.
Yeah.
Was there like a certain surreal moment, like a vivid moment for you when you kind of were just like, it's insane to me that I achieved this? Like it all kind of, I don't know. I just think we have certain moments on the journey when we reflect and we're like, you
Yeah.
remember where you started and you remember where you were.
Yes. For me, I feel like the first like 10,000 meant the most, and the first 100,000 meant the most to me. After that, it's just like things start becoming like, oh, whatever. But for me, I really felt like, wow, like I'm really doing something when I first made my first $10,000. I felt like my life is actually changing. I didn't feel like, oh my God, I have to drop everything and go chase this business. I just felt like, wow, like this is real life. Things actually work out for you. And then my first 100,000 just felt like this is like my changing point. This is my pivoting point. Like this is 10% of $1 million. This is real life. This is what
Mm,
people could do. Like normally, I hadn't. It just changed my mind completely about everything in life. My perspective changed, and perspective is everything.
mm.
So yeah,
Would you have moments where you just look in your account?
I used to, but not anymore.
Mm.
Came like normal now.
Yeah.
But before, it's like I would wake up and be like, oh my gosh, like this is real life. No way.
Yeah.
Gosh, God is so good.
Yeah.
I worked so hard for this. I cried for this every single day. It's crazy.
Yeah. Do you still have, would you say you still have like emotional moments now? Like what even gets you upset now?
Nothing. There
Really?
is no emotion like in like negative things. I feel like I've trained myself enough to just be more emotionally intelligent, more emotionally different. In the
Mm.
beginning, I would literally like lose my mind if like we didn't have like the same sales month as the month before. Like I was so used to like doing 100,000 a month, and then one summer came, I'm like, wait, we only did 60K a month. Like I was losing my mind. I was like going crazy. I'm like, oh my gosh, okay, wait, pause. There was a time in life where we didn't even make 60K in a year.
Mm.
Like no, so I had to take myself back to just being like, this is a part of business. I had to learn and adapt to in life. Things go up and down. Business goes up and down. I got used to it.
Mm.
Now it's like to phase me, like you're probably gonna have to, I don't know, like get in my face and scream at me. Like at that point, like nothing really phases me anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I saw you're talking about you don't really like partake in like negative emotions. I saw something that you posted on again on your Twitter. This was back in 2023. You said it's about to be 2023. Get you a solid partner and a solid group of friends and live. Nobody's got time to be falling out with adults all the time and weird energy. It's way too much other shit going on in the world.
I believe in that absolutely because it's life. What you consume yourself with will become your reality.
Mm,
When you consume yourself with, drama, news, constant fear, which is what the world wants you to consume yourself with, is fear, doubt, and just always believing the wrong stuff or whatever, you become distracted with that. The world is filled with distractions. When
mm,
you consume yourself with developing yourself, having a, confident mind, confident body, confident just personal being in general, you're only going to be consumed with that. Nobody can tell you who you are when you know who you are yourself. So it's just important what you consume yourself with is most likely what you will become.
mm. Is there a story for you where you can kind of like see the growth? Like a situation, and maybe it's something recently that you know in the past it would have triggered you. Like you would have got emotional or you would have got wrapped up into it. But now in 2024, on whatever the date is, September 13th, you're like you're unfazed. Does anything come to mind?
Um, a lot of situations. Like, I don't know. When people comment things on my social media, like negatively, when I was younger, I always felt like I have to like prove myself, or I used to care what people think. Or when people don't, agree with me online or challenge me, I feel like today nothing really faces me. Like still, like I'm just like, I don't know if I'm like a robot. No, I'm not a robot. But most of the time I just don't really engage in any negativity. I don't. It doesn't benefit me. I learned a lot, and I'm glad that I learned a lot earlier so I could stay focused on where I'm at now.
Mm,
Yeah.
yeah. You know what? I want to give people, before we get out of here, I want to give people one more piece of game from you, which is if someone goes on your Instagram account and they look, they're probably going to see videos of you or pictures of you with certain celebrities, right? Like Duke Dennis. I think I saw one with DDG, like these different influencers, celebrities. Like, how does something like that even come about? Because I can imagine there's people that are watching that would love that for their clothing brand. Like, how does a celebrity even get to wear your clothes?
I feel like that comes into building also like a personal brand. And I tell people like your digital footprint is very important because sometimes a lot of us don't really care about how we perceive ourselves on social media. As much as people don't want to admit this, the first thing that you do when you see somebody is you kind of make an assumption of what they do or who they are. You know, when you walk into a room with people, what somebody's wearing, you might just assume, oh, like you might make your own personal judgments. It's just in our human nature to do so. So when it comes to social media, I advise people, right? If one day you want to work with certain celebrities, it's important that you carry yourself with professionalism. You carry your social media like as a business owner. Because for me, I always, imagine myself working or collaborating with certain influencers to put my brand on them. And how can I do that if I carry myself as like a high schooler on social media and I'm like 24? I don't go on social media and post like certain things or inappropriate things or cursing people out or just doing the wrong thing in general on social media. If I'm a business owner on my Instagram, because that's where I run my business, I wouldn't want another influencer to see me and say, hey, like, and I DM them say, hey, let's collaborate. And I'm on Instagram, like partaking in like the complete opposite of what they do. They're probably not going to really want to trust to link up with me. When they see that I kind of have a business going and I'm professional or I, do what I do, they're probably like, okay, she has stuff to lose. I have things to lose. If I collaborate with her, it's probably going to be smooth. It's probably going to go the right way. So I'll feel more comfortable doing that with her. If I'm on social media fighting, I don't know, throwing bottles at people or just posting like the wrong thing in general, they're probably not going to feel that comfortable collaborating with me because they might feel like it might just go the wrong way. It might not really fit with their brand themselves. So for me, it just comes down to maintaining and carrying yourself with a professional like standpoint or a professional kind of vibe on social media because it'll take you a long way.
Yeah.
People look at your social media. Whenever you feel like someone's not watching, I promise you, you never know who's watching you ever. Never know. People are always watching you. Always.
It's actually it's such a good point. Um because I think you don't see how it's like undercutting your brand or your reputation, like that little the vacation video or like the just like these crazy things that you kind of just threw up there,
Yeah.
not taking into account who could be watching.
Yeah.
And reputation, it's like it's built over the long term and it only takes a second to lose it,
Yeah.
right? Like it only takes a second for that trust to be lost, and now you've missed out on an opportunity. And something else that you said, which it kind of jogged my memory to it. I remember this feeling distinctly when I was starting the show and we didn't have that many listeners. Like it would be really frustrating to me the fact that like um I would have like longtime friends who like never watch the show. And then someone who's just like random on the internet will be like supporting all your stuff or like posting all your stuff, sharing all your stuff. It used to be frustrating to me that I didn't feel like people would want to get on board. They would want to help.
Yeah.
And it's like, even to your point about being consistent, being professional, showing up a certain way,
Hmm.
I found that you need to show the motion first. Like people need to see, they need to see momentum, they need to see motion, they need to see you showing up
Yeah.
consistently, going through the several launches of your clothing
Uh-huh.
brand,
Yeah.
posting about it 5 to 7 times, pre-launch, then it launches, then you post about it another 10 times. Then maybe 2 months later, you do like a revamp, new launch of the same product.
Yeah.
Like people need to see it. And then once they see the motion and it's working, that's when I'm sure like bigger celebrities, for me, it was like bigger people want to come on your show because they
Yeah.
see the momentum, they see you're doing something. And so, yeah, I think it's such a good point of like how you show up is everything.
That's very true.
You know what? Here's where I want to end. In the beginning, we spoke about 17 years old, sitting in your grandma's house, um, and what that felt like. Even the moment of like going to your uncle's house and seeing what he had was kind of like inspirational to you. It kind of it kind of gave you that vision that there's something bigger for your life than what you had at that moment.
Hmm.
But even despite that, there was like so much confusion in the beginning. And there were so many moments in the beginning where like it wasn't working. Like there were months where you weren't making any sales. And I'm sure there was dark moments within that. I'm curious, like the Kayla that's sitting in front of me today, I don't know how old you are now, 24?
Yeah, 24.
24-year-old Kayla, if she has to have a conversation with the 18-year-old, the 19-year-old version of Kayla that left Foot Locker after 2 months or, like, left the second job after a little while
Mhm.
and was just feeling kind of discouraged, disillusioned. You even called it the most stressful period of your life. I'm just curious what you would tell her, like, if you could only give one piece of advice, like, what would you tell that version of Kayla?
I would tell her, it's all about your switch. You have to make a switch within yourself. If you decide that you want better, Kayla, then you have to be better, right? And you cannot make excuses for yourself. The moment that you stop blaming everybody for anything in your life and you start blaming yourself for everything, right? And you take accountability, like your life changes, right? If you wake up and you feel like you're not in the same, standpoint, or you feel like you're not where you want to be, Kayla, you have to make that switch and decide that you want to be that girl that you want to be. And you have to take steps towards everything that aligns with the future person that you want to be, and only that. You have to stick to your code. Once you decide who you want to be, do not entertain anything that does not align with that. Yeah, we make mistakes along the way, but you have to make strong decisions that align with the future person that you want to be, and only that. And that's it. You will get to where you want to be faster, and it'll come to you naturally.
Hmm.
Yeah.
I love it. Kayla Parrilla, thank you so much.
Thank you.
It's amazing having you. Thank you so much for watching this episode. I hope you enjoyed it. It's really a dream for me that I get to do this. It's surreal that this is what I do full time and every week. So if you enjoy the content, if you enjoyed the conversation, the stories, please hit that subscribe button. It helps us immeasurably with growing the channel, with getting guests, all of those things. So please hit that subscribe button, and I'll see you next time.